Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. And here are our top stories today. We'll go into Silicon Valley and discuss artificial intelligence and balancing collecting data with privacy. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Ray Wang. He is principal and founder of Constellation Research. Ray, great to speak with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Hey, same here as well. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm doing great and really pleased to have you. You're kind of our person on the inside in Silicon Valley, and really appreciate you stopping by the program. So what I figured we'd do, there's a lot of big topics going on in technology, and what I figured we'd do with this, which is I hope will be first of many segments, is I'd like to let's tackle AI or artificial intelligence, because I think this is a great topic. It's a broad topic. It's something we've talked about from a distance on the program. So I'll let you start. What can you tell us about AI and how it may apply to our everyday lives here in America and beyond?
It's a great question. Everybody's wondering AI. Is it going to come over? Is it going to take over the world? Is it going to completely take over privacy, take over, how we think or how we act? But I think what we are talking about is really a little bit more than the dystopian movies that we see out there. What's actually happening is we're progressing there. And to get there, it takes analytics, it takes automation, and it takes a little something we call machine learning. And where AI is headed towards the future is a little bit different. To get AI to work, you need lots of data. You need lots of information, and you have to build what we call social graphs or business graphs. These graphs are really what help us think about behavior or predicting things. You can see it as a way to prevent fraud, for example. You can see it as a way to improve customer experiences. You can use it as a way to meet regulations and compliance. You can see it as a way to prevent a disaster from happening. And this is really what, if we think about the business outcomes of AI, we can start by saying, start by telling me what's happening. Then figure out, tell me, give me a notification or an alert. Help me figure out when recommendation is important. Make a suggestion for me. And then once we get to that point, we want these systems to help us automate suggestions and then at some point predict things and then make preventions. And I'll give you a great example of how this might work. In preventions, large cell phone manufacturer at one point had like 150 phones that were burning up. They had some battery issues. Imagine if you can go from 8 weeks of recalls, which could cost you $8 billion, to 1 week. That would be $1 billion. If you could use AI to figure out and track down how to get these phones to a point where you can actually drive down the cost of recall from 1 week to 1 day, that would be $100 million to do something like that. And that's the kind of impact we're talking about. It could be anything from being able to predict fines, do a better job predicting weather, at a personal level, helping you get to a threshold to understand, hey, if one factor occurs, for example, let's say oil is at $60, and let's say, for example, that your Bitcoin is sitting at apparently $50,000, maybe you want to try something else. Here's what 15 other people like you have done, right? And we're getting to those recommendations. Now, in an everyday life, we see that, right? We see the experiences that you get onto Netflix. It makes a suggestion for you. We've run out of things to watch, but it's not too bad, right? When we had a lot more things to watch, it was pretty good, right? And this takes time, right? It's learning from you. It's learning from people that are in the system. And we're going to see more and more of these kinds of suggestions and personalization that comes out of AI.
And Ray, you bring up some really interesting examples, and I hadn't even thought about the Netflix recommendations. But as you said, we're seeing this today on, for example, Amazon, or if you're browsing skateboards. I don't know why I'd be browsing skateboards, but I used to skate when I was younger, and maybe you would be shown skateboard wheels, or you'd be shown a helmet, which we didn't wear a lot of back in the day.
No.
But
you tell?
This is really not something. Yeah, that's true. But this isn't something. I think what you described early on. A lot of us think of the Terminator. They think of that dystopian
Yes.
future where things are monitoring you. This is not really that. This is really designed, and I guess it could be hijacked and used for purposes. And we'll talk about a little bit of that in privacy and data in our conversation in the second segment. But really, this is something that can be used to make greater efficiencies for business and I would presume also greater efficiencies for government as well.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see that. We're going to see the different types of efficiencies. That's one place you're going to see it. Maybe it's one of those things like you're hunting for skateboard helmets and you're doing it on Amazon, and you get a JBM, or you get I don't know, you get another type of helmet that's out there. And the problem is, preferences have changed over time, right? What you order versus what your kids order versus something else. It's going to track those types of things. It's going to understand that because you ordered a different type of ski helmet, your sizing has changed. Here's probably what you're maybe looking for. There might be safety considerations. All those things come into play. And this notion of AI being dystopian and Terminators and other things coming and jumping into the market, that's because we've actually glamorized that into Hollywood, right? But the actual practical use cases are very simple. Energy management. Just think about that, right? If you're thinking about when thermostats go on, thermostats go off, when you're in the house, what temperatures make sense. Water management, we see that. And so you're going to see this in energy and power consumptions. It's going to happen in smart buildings as well, where people renegotiate power purchase agreements based on usage, where people think about smart ads inside a building based on who's in the elevator, what information is being put out there. I'll give you a simple example. I mean, we could get to this point where you walk into your office building, right? It's 2 p.m. Cameras sense that you're walking into the office. It says, hey, looks like Jeffrey. He's the guy on the 5th floor. Send an elevator down. It's 2 p.m. There's no one down there. Bring all the elevators down so that when you get there, there's an elevator waiting for you. There's a 90% chance you're going to be on the 5th floor. We totally get that. But your boss, she might be on the 10th floor. And guess what? There's 70% chance you might want to meet with her. And so option 2 pops up and the elevator says, hey, Jeffrey, would you like to go to the 10th floor, meet your boss? Perfect, right? And then option 3 might pop up and say, hey, by the way, there's free donuts on the 2nd floor, right? These systems are going to make suggestions. They're going to learn from us. They're going to come in all different shapes. Some of them are going to be voice. Some are going to be our heads-up display. And that's what AI is going to do. It's just going to get smart, learning about our behaviors and helping us do things more efficiently in life. And of course, there's privacy associated, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, and Ray, can you just kind of break down, because how does this get created? Is this a room full of programmers, systems managers that build this? I want to give a picture to the audience. I'm thinking of a Google, a Microsoft, and Amazon, and there are probably smaller startups in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. But how does this machine learning and how does this programmatically take place? Because I would find that fascinating. We've got about 2 minutes left in the segment.
It's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of things happening with voice. People are listening to your voice, their conversations, they transcribe that into text, and they look for patterns. We see that with computer vision. You can see that in security cameras. They can scan a building and notice, hey, very, very weird. At 2 p.m., there's all these folks that are gathered by the exits. What's going on, right? Oh, maybe it's a shift change. Maybe it's a break. But hey, what's going on at 5 p.m.? All these people are gathered in these areas that are normally not there. Oh, you're being robbed. Let's go do something about that, right? And so what it's doing, it's learning patterns. It's applying different types of mathematical equations to say, oh, here's a pattern. This is what happens normally. Here's what doesn't happen normally. And as a human, why don't you go check it out and see if it makes sense? And programmers in the back are adjusting the algorithms. They're learning from each other. Some of these algorithms can learn from each other and actually create new algorithms. And that's when we get to a concept called neural networks. But for the most part, it takes patterns, puts them into numbers, applies the numbers, applies some math against it. They look at new patterns and see if those patterns still make sense, and they keep learning and learning over time, and they get smarter over time as they grab more information and more insights.
Yeah, and they don't fall asleep like I would when I'm reading a book. Well, Ray, I want to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Ray about data privacy and what's the latest going on in Silicon Valley around privacy and maintaining protection. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Ray Wong of Constellation Research. Ray, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Hey, yeah, some great conversations here.
Yeah, this is absolutely fascinating, and I think you bring a perspective that thus, we have great tech people, but getting your perspective as a programmer, as a business analyst, someone who's actually in the throes of this, I think brings a very interesting perspective. So let's kind of switch gears, and I think we brought it up a little bit in segment one, and that's data privacy. And we've talked about this on the program, and I'm sure people talk about it on a lot of different programs and a lot of different types of venues. And that is, how do we maintain our personal data privacy and our organizational privacy? What can you tell us some of the latest here?
Yeah, there's a lot happening in this space, and it's evolving. And basically what's going on is there are two factions at war with each other in the tech community. There are the companies that depend on ad-supported revenue, and there are the companies that have built businesses that don't depend on ad-supported revenue, which have subscriptions and memberships. And like a Netflix is subscription-based. You notice how there's no ads there. And a Facebook, as you know, is mostly about ads. And this is coming to heads for a couple of reasons. One, because consumers have gotten smart about privacy and what it means. And when you're having a free product, you become the product, and that data becomes what companies are mining and building on top of and selling you ads and making recommendations. And there's also companies like Apple who are actually taking a big privacy stand, from silicon on chip all the way to their devices, to the app store, to how you interact with them. They're playing a different role where they're saying, our trust, your trust of us is more important as a brand, and we will defend your personal data and privacy. And so as this has been going on, along with the hacking that's happening, along with other factors in the marketplace, privacy suddenly become a super hot topic. The challenge with privacy and what we're seeing here in the Valley is there's really no laws around personal data privacy. We know privacy is a human right inherently, but in a digital world, we haven't caught up with the policies and the regulations. And the tech companies have gone crazy, taking advantage of the fact that the data is free, the data is the resource. We're building these big data models, and it's the data what drives the ability to sell a better product or to recommend someone or to get you to spend more time on a social network. That's what's happening in place of the market.
Now, Ray, I guess logically speaking, when you see something is for free, you have to assume that there's some way that they're monetizing, whether it's a site, whether it's video, whether it's anything, right? And so, to your point, consumers are becoming a little bit more cautious about what they put out there. People may not be as open as they have been on Facebook. Maybe they dial down some of what they're sharing for fear of what other people may think and whatnot. But what about at the organizational level? You mentioned some of the hacking, but I think there are a lot of organizations, especially in Silicon Valley, where there's worry around people stealing trade secrets. And if you, I don't want to presume, but if you work as a consultant for one of these tech companies, I'm more than sure that you sign some type of NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, or some type of button-up agreement that none of that information gets leaked out.
Yeah, that does happen, right? There's been a lot of IP theft. So on the privacy side, from corporate espionage, from privacy, what's going on, we've seen a lot of inside jobs. Over the summer, between May and July, you noticed some crazy things were happening. Large telecom provider had an internet outage in 2 cities, right? And the cause was a truck hit an easement. And you're just like, yeah, right. I want to see the truck and I want to see the easement. That was not even possible. It was inside job. A hacker probably put a thumb drive into a system or uploaded something that caused catastrophic failure over some networks. And so you're seeing that. You're seeing corporate espionage increase as well. Sometime over the summer, we had U.S. nuclear naval secrets stolen from nuclear systems by a subcontractor. So there's active espionage going on in the markets. And so people do see that. And so insider jobs are the biggest threat, despite all this conversations about cybersecurity and digital security and what's happening out there. So these insider threats are happening, and they're happening with a good level of frequency. So companies have become a lot more aware of that and a lot more protective of their data. It's happening right now. I mean, there are hackers trying to steal secrets to our vaccine development and what's happening there, our space programs. It's happening in just company and corporate records, or people just trying to get payroll information. It happens when you click on that link that says payroll data and bonus information in Excel, so don't open those in their email, but you get the idea. So all those things are kind of happening right now, and people are being a lot more vigilant, both on the insider threat and then in terms of attack surfaces, which is any entry point inside a company at a digital level. So.
Is it, you mentioned being vigilant, and a lot of that probably is training and awareness, as well as hiring professionals like yourself to be on the inside to identify threats. But in an open society like ours, won't we always be, there always is some level of vulnerability, and because we are one of the world's greatest technologists, and there are other great countries, that we're always going to be in sight of hackers. We're the world's largest economy, as an example. Is there anything, there's nothing really, I guess my point is, there's nothing really that can be done just to make this threat go away. It's a reality, it's here. Privacy, you need to be very vigilant as an individual, but also very vigilant as an organization in training and maintaining your employees.
Actually, there is a lot that can be done. There's things called red teaming as a service. These are companies that go in and test your infrastructure to make sure that things are safe. There are companies that have, for example, our utilities are doing a better job securing their systems. You've probably noticed in hospitals and healthcare, all the devices for a while, actually, they just connected to the network. There's no security. Like you could turn on a pump, you could turn on a monitor from anywhere if you knew what you were doing. So all those things have become much more secure. So I think there's active security measures going on. And then, of course, there's a lot of defensive measures that are being put up in place as well to protect citizens. A lot of information sharing is probably what's going to help organizations share what they've experienced, share them with each other in a way that they can actually protect themselves. We're going to see a lot more of that, but we're also going to see a lot more hacking, as you said. We're in an open society.
And when you look at these hackers, Ray, is there any profile to who these hackers are? I mean, they're people that look and sound like us. I'm middle-aged, or are these young? Who fits the profile of a hacker and a threat to an organization or to a company?
It's all over the map. But we saw organizations share with us the type of notes that they found from people who were convicted, who were found actually performing that espionage. It could be, hey, Ray, you've got this cousin living in St. Petersburg, and it'd be interesting if that person was missing tomorrow. Here's what we need you to do to help us. Or it could be, do something for your government. Your government's been, or actually fight your government. They've been awful. They're not doing something great. Be part of the movement, put this into the drive and do your part, right? It could be, hey, you have an uncle in country Y, right? And we want to offer you a wonderful job if you help and come back to the country and get patriated, right? It's all over. It could be someone who is coming from a different country. It could be someone inside the country that's mad. We've got domestic and we got foreign actors that are all in play. And it's a constant attack on companies and corporations.
Yeah. Well, something certainly that we will have to be mindful of in our day-to-day lives, both as individual citizens, but also as employees of companies and organizations. Ray, it is a pleasure to have you on the program. I'm so glad that you could stop by, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. And until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.